Hey, it's Mike Sheely again. Today we're picking up where we left off with the last video when it comes to reading and studying your Bible. I encourage you to get a print Bible and to just read it through, just enjoy what you're reading. And if you don't know where to start, I suggested reading the book of John. Whether you're reading it in print, going to BibleGateway.com, or listening to Streetlights Bible, that's 21 chapters of reading. You might just want to hit pause on this video and get that reading done before you go on. But if you want to know where we're going next, I'm going to talk you through the active reading process I use when I'm reading a book after I've read it the first time. And sometimes if it's been a while since I've read a book, I'll still sit and just read it like I told you to, and then I'll use this method today. What we're going to do today is going to involve colored highlighting and annotating or writing notes in our Bibles. I'm a big believer that a Bible that just sits there and looks nice on a bookshelf is not a good Bible. It should be something that you actually engage with, that you have to replace after a while because you've written in it and highlighted it and noted it. The pages of the Bible aren't holy. The words are only holy if they work themselves into your life and make a change. So, today's method I'm going to teach you is an active way to study your Bible to really help you dig into it and to see things that maybe you didn't notice before when you slow down and use this method. So, what I do is a color coded process when I'm doing Bible study. And so I want to show you that today. No, that's not what I want to show you. I want to show you this. Or maybe let's try. There we go. Live, baby. Okay, so when we go to the Bible, I recommend you highlight. Now, a lot of Bible pages are really thin, and so I'll leave a link in the description here where you can get some highlighters that are waxy so they don't bleed through the page. That's really important. I'll also give you a link to some pigment pens. You can pick whatever kind you want, but it's really important that they're pigment so that the ink actually stays on the top or the pigment stays on the top of the page and doesn't bleed through to the other side. Now, if you're using a digital Bible, you can create a note, you can highlight and create your own colors, and none of that stuff matters. So, whether you're using digital or print, here is the color coded system I use for Bible study. Like I've said before, it is not the only way to study your Bible. It's a method that works really well for me, and other people have found it helpful. So, I wanted to share it with you. The first thing, and this might be really obvious, is the color yellow, like the most common highlighter. This is a wow factor for me when I read my Bible. It's also my default highlighter if I don't have the others with me. Something is just kind of wow, that's amazing. Maybe something that is really important that I want to make sure I pay attention to. Something that truly is awesome. Not awesome like that's a pretty cool thing, but like awe, jaw dropping, awesome. Or something where I'm just kind of look and go, God did this. God, you're an amazing creator. God, you're a healer. God, you're a forgiver. Whatever it is, it's a God moment that gets yellow. And so I just simply highlight the verse in yellow, and it can be a word, it can be a phrase, it can be a sentence. If you're using a print Bible, you have all those options to highlight whatever you want. If you're using a digital Bible, some apps, software, and websites allow you to highlight individual words and phrases. Some make you highlight the whole verse, so kind of keep that in mind. And the second thing I do, and again, I've given a link below for those pigment pens, is then if I'm doing it really well, then I'll pause and write in the margin of my Bible why I highlighted that color. So if I highlight it in yellow, hey, wow, this is amazing. In the right side, I might just put God's amazing love. If it's something that's really important, I might put down like remember as a husband, remember as a parent, like whatever it is, a note on the side. Now, I'm not writing the notes in yellow pen. I probably need to clarify that for some of you. Color coding is awesome. Yellow is great for highlighting. It is horrible trying to read. And yes, I've tried writing my notes with yellow pigment pen to be able to make them match. It doesn't coordinate. I just use a black one for the yellow notes. Sometimes I'll draw a line to it. Sometimes it's really obvious. So I highlight in yellow and then put a comment in the margin with black that connects these two together and just explains why I highlighted that color. Sometimes when you're doing Bible study and you read like this, it's a very slow process. You might get through one chapter and have done a bunch of highlighting and notes, and that's enough for you to focus on and think about for today, and that's fine. That's why I suggest the first time you read all the way through from the beginning of whatever book or letter you're reading, all the way to the end of that one, like with John, chapter 1 all the way to 21, so you get the whole story. and then you can go back and do the highlighting process and kind of slow down, look at it one thing at a time. Your call. The next color I use is blue. And this one is something that's maybe not amazing or a wow factor. It may be an Old Testament reference in the New Testament. A lot of Bibles you get will highlight Jesus' words in red. And I have found some Bibles that will highlight them in blue in the Old Testament. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I like to do is if I'm reading something and they're like, oh, they're referring to the Old Testament. How will you know that? Sometimes as you get familiar with the Bible, you'll recognize those things. But a lot of times there'll be some kind of an asterisk or a number, and you'll go in the footnote, and it will give you the book, chapter, and verse of what it's quoting or talking about that comes from the Old Testament. When that happens, I'll highlight it in blue as if, you know what, I'm not familiar with that. I might need to go back and read that where it's originally quoting it from to understand why they're quoting it here a little bit better. I also use blue when it's just good stuff. Like it's not amazing, it's not really challenging, it's just some good content that I want to pay attention to. I'll highlight it in blue. And then sometimes I'll highlight with blue something that I already know, but I should be remembering. And so it's a simple little tool that draws my attention to it, and we go forward. And again, just like with yellow, sometimes with this one, I'll actually grab a blue pigment pen and write in the margin whatever it is. If it's an Old Testament reference, I'll write that down and maybe put a little box. And after I've gone back and read that in the Old Testament, added a check mark there. If it's just good stuff, you may not need to write anything in the margin. If it's a reminder of something that I already know, then I might put a note like, "Oh, I remember reading this the first time," or "Hey, this is such a good point. Be sure to read," whatever. Just a little note to yourself because it's a reminder. The third color I use after yellow and blue is pink. And this one really grabs your attention. For me, it's do I have a question about this? Sometimes I'll highlight when they ask a question, but usually this is me highlighting if I have a question about what I'm reading. Sometimes this also means I'm confused. Like I've read this, it probably should make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to have to get some help to understand it better. I also will highlight in pink if it's just something I don't understand. Like I have studied this, I've read this, it doesn't make sense to me. It's not that I'm confused. I just don't understand why they're saying this or what the point is or what I should do. And so it's highlighted in pink. And then sometimes it's something I need to study more. I need to grab some resources. If I know where I need to go, I'll write in the margin, check this out in this resource. But most of the time, it's just, hey, I need to study it some more. And then sometimes I need to ask somebody about this. I might put in the margin, ask Pastor so and so about this, ask my old professor about this, ask my wife about this, ask my friends about this. I need to hear a different perspective to help me understand it. So, pink means there's more to do. Like I'm not clear on things. Now, there's some Bibles that the Bible I used, it was in pink. And when I got a new Bible, that same text might be in yellow or a different color because I have done the work now to know what it is I need to learn. I recommend whether you write in pink or black in the margin, making a little square. And after you've gone back and done some studying or gotten some help and you understand it, then checking it off so you can just kind of visually see, oh, I did have a question, but now I understand. The next color I use is green. It's bold. It is a color that says this is an action step. This is something to do. Action should be taken. When it says don't worry about anything but pray about everything, those are two things in green. Stop worrying and start praying. Love your neighbor, honor your parents. Whatever those action steps are, I'll highlight it in green. Sometimes it's not a direct like go do this, but I'll see an example and like I need to forgive like that. I need to care like that. I need to be bold like that. And then in the margin of my Bible, either in green or just in black with an arrow pointing over to it, I'll write down what the action step is that goes with what I highlighted in that color. Next color is purple. Now, you can cover a lot of your Bible in purple if you're highlighting things about Jesus. So I'm not usually using this color in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because those four books are all about the life and ministry of Jesus. But if I'm reading somewhere else in the New Testament, one of the letters of Paul or Peter or John, and they reference Jesus or quote him or describe an action, I might highlight that in purple to draw attention to what he did. And if there's a footnote or I know, I might put in the margin where I can go back and read about that in one of the Gospels. Now, when I'm reading the Old Testament, And it talks about, like, Isaiah talks about this suffering servant, and he's referring to Jesus. If I'm reading in the Psalms and I come across something that connects to this prediction of Jesus being the rescuer, I highlight that in purple. It's just a way for me to see that the whole Bible points to Jesus, and those kind of references will help me connect visually when I see it. If there's not already a footnote, I might make a note in the margin, either with black or purple, describing how that connects to Christ. Orange is a color I don't use a whole lot. Color? Orange is a color I don't use a whole lot, but this is like a warning. This is a bold thing to pay attention to more than just basic instructions. It might be shocking. Like, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he did that. When I read that Jesus, who's the Son of God, acted like a servant and washed his disciples' feet, that's in orange. That's strange. And then the more you read it, the more you're like, wow, there's a lot more here to it. This is a very bold thing that it may be something I could have highlighted in green, but it's gonna be really challenging to put this into practice. So I'll highlight it in orange as like, "Hey, this is something you need to do," and then I'll add one of those squares that, like, just because it's hard doesn't mean you avoid it, but we'll check it off once I've done it or begun the habit to make that change even though it was hard. The last thing is red. I don't highlight things in red, but I do use a red pigment pen to write in my Bible, and here's what I'll do. If something is bad, just that was, like, not good, I'll hide it in red or I'll underline it in red. If there's evil things happening, I'll underline that in red, draw my attention to it, but understand it. And actually, if things are things I'm not supposed to do, then I'll underline don't or do not or never or whatever the word is, the negative word there, to remind me not to do it. If it's to stop doing something, like I'm to forgive others the way Jesus forgives me, I need to stop judging or holding things in and start showing forgiveness. There's going to be a red underline, there's going to be a green highlight, all kinds of stuff going on. And actually, I use this two different ways. Sometimes I'll just underline it, and sometimes I'll actually cross it out in red on the text. If it says to do not do something, I'll cross it out. Like, I don't want my eyes to focus on that. I want them to focus on what I should do. That's a lot, okay? That's a lot, and I don't use all of those every single time I read, but the more you use it, the more it's a good habit to get into. At the very least, get a yellow highlighter that doesn't bleed through the page, and get a pigment pen that's black. And when you're reading things in your Bible that get your attention, highlight it and write in the margin why it caught your attention. And if you want to use my multicolored method, then get the different color highlighters, and then in your margin, write down what is it you have a question about? What is it you need to do? What's challenging? What is like an awesome thing that God did? What points to Jesus from somewhere else in the Bible? Or what's something to avoid or stop doing? This method will help you with journaling, reflection, action steps that we're going to talk about in the next video. But hopefully that helps you today. Check out those resources below. If you got questions about this, about how I use it or what I do it or what this might look like in a digital Bible, leave a comment below and I'll respond to that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.